Alright guys, I'm gonna go watch Unhinged in Dolby. I'm here with my dad. It's a Tuesday, so there's like nobody here. It's all dead. With the panda here, the whole theater is dead. So let's go.
Wasn't us being here now, and it never happened.
That part is a little dramatic.
Alright guys, so I saw Unhinged. I saw it in Dolby Cinema. And let's talk about this movie because I was super curious about this movie. Of course, I decided to go out to the theater and watch this movie today with my dad. And I'm here to talk about it and review it for you guys. So let's start off with the review. Unhinged is just one of those movies that you just can't get away from in terms of marketing, because the marketing for this movie is everywhere. And of course, this is the newest Russell Crowe movie where he's the villain of the movie and he's like being super evil and road raging throughout the whole movie. But let's talk about it. There are some adjectives that I could describe this movie with. I would say chaotic, evil, terrifying, and mean-spirited as hell. Because this movie is just crazy. It's insane. It's just chaos after chaos after chaos. The movie's only 90 minutes long, and I'd say that the first two acts of the movie is pretty well set up for the third act, because everything they see in the marketing doesn't happen till like the third act of the movie. But I think that the movie's pretty well built up to its third act, where it really keeps the audience intact into what's happening and really keeps them informed with the characters. Now, yeah, there are some pointless characters that are just kind of introduced in this movie just to put them in danger later on in the movie. Mainly, our main characters here are going to be Russell Crowe and the mom in this movie, who is the one that's being like assaulted by Russell Crowe in this movie. I don't know the name of this actress specifically. She did an okay job, by the ways. But I think that the show stealer here is obviously Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe just gives us a terrifying performance as the villain in the movie. He actually feels like a genuine villain in this movie. That's how terrifying he is. In order for him to get this role right and convince us enough that this character is a character that is gonna hurt innocent people and that this is a dangerous character in the movie, you really have to cast the right person in this role. And I think that Russell Crowe really fits in that role perfectly. I don't know how, but he does such a good job. He's convincing enough and he sold it enough to the audience to the point where he's actually a really good villain, I'd say. Now, I think that in terms of his whole motivation, in the movie he claims that he's having a bad day, although I really wouldn't say that he's having a bad day. I would say that it's more of him not being in the right place at the moment, because his character in this movie is going through a rough divorce. And I think that one of the nicest touches in this movie that isn't really being talked about enough, is that both main characters in this movie, Russell Crowe, the villain of the movie, and the innocent woman that he's following and assaulting throughout the movie, both of these characters are going through a divorce, but both characters at the same time are on the opposite side of the spectrum. Like, one character is handling the divorce pretty well, while the other character is taking out his anger on hurting and injuring innocent people. And I think that was a pretty smart touch, because it kind of shows us from two different perspectives on how stressful it could be, I'd say. And I thought it was a pretty smart move on doing that. Now, one of the biggest complaints that I hear about this movie is that Russell Crowe's hurting innocent people just for nothing, just because he's being evil in this movie. And okay, yeah, that's true. He's doing it for no reason. He's hurting these innocent people for basically no reason. I think that that's the purpose to his character, because let's face it, in reality, there are some really evil and terrible people that do terrible things to innocent people, whether it's injuring them or maybe even unfortunately killing them. There are some evil like that really do exist in this world, where they take out their anger on other people just for their pleasure. think it kind of depicts that pretty well with Russell Crowe's character in this movie. Um, is it's more of a controversial topic to like deeply talk about, so that's as far as I'd say about that. There are some people like that in this world, and I think that that's what this movie is trying. That's the message that this movie is trying to kind of give us. I've seen some people bring in politics into this movie, like saying that that Russell Crowe's character is like would be like the equivalent to a Trump supporter, and that the woman in this movie would be like a liberal. I don't know. I don't know how people think of that, and I don't know why people think about politics when it comes to this movie. I just don't know, and I'm not gonna get into it because I don't like talking about politics. But I just think it's stupid, honestly. There are some things in this movie that just happened that really kind of almost made me sick to my stomach, and I'm not the type of person to be sensitive about violence that happens in movies, but with this movie, like, there were some things, like I said, that were honestly making me sick to my stomach. And if you're not the intended audience for this movie, do not watch it, especially if you're sensitive to this type of violence. This movie's not for you. But I'm not going to ignore the fact that there are some things in this movie that just absolutely do not make any sense. Like, for example, where are the cops during this movie? The cops in this movie are just absolutely pointless. Matter of fact, I don't think I saw a cop show up in this movie till like the last 10 to 15 minutes of the movie. And it doesn't make sense because Russell Crowe is doing terrible things from the opening scene of this movie. And cops are suspicious of it, but they're not even acting upon it. And there's this, and then the whole reason why this movie starts is because the woman honks at Russell Crowe because he's supposed to be moving because he's at a green light. But there's an empty space right next to her where she could have just obviously just swerved past him and just acted like nothing happened. Now, I know that things need to happen in order for the movie to happen, but it's just stuff like that that happens in this movie that just really doesn't make sense in the writing. And there's some really bad dialogue and some really bad one-liners in this movie, but I think that the movie's self-aware of that. I think that the movie knows that it's gonna have some terrible one-liners. Just think that this movie knows what it is, and I applaud it for it. I really do, because this movie was everything that I was kind of expecting it to be, and I really enjoyed this movie, and I kind of felt dirty for enjoying this movie because, again, this movie's just so cruel in its violence that I almost kind of feel guilty for enjoying it. But oh my god, it's just so much fun to watch. And that third act, like I keep on saying, it's just evil and it's super chaotic. Unhinged was a fun summer movie. I think it's the definition of a summer movie, honestly, and I had a lot of fun watching it. So with that being said, Unhinged I thought was actually a pretty good movie, aside from the problems that I had with the movie, like some things that logically do not make sense, some things in the writing and everything. But overall, I thought that the movie, as far as thrillers go, I expected this to be one of those cheap thrillers, but it was not. It was actually pretty effective, so props to that. So I'm gonna give Unhinged a B. Now, I did see this movie in Dolby Cinema, of course, with Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos. I think that the 4K presentation of this in Dolby Vision looked pretty sharp, and it looked good for the most part. I think that the color palette, this movie has a darker color palette, so the colors aren't really going to stand out all that much. But it's still a pretty sharp picture, and it looks pretty good. And the Dolby Atmos, I'd say, is pretty well mixed. Like, again, this movie is just chaotic thing after chaotic thing happening, and the car chase sequences sound really good. Like, it actually felt like there was a car chase inside the movie theater, especially during the third act when there are cars flipping in the overhead channels. It's really effective, and if you're considering Dolby for this movie, I would recommend it. It's a pretty good experience. Now, again, I'm not encouraging people to go out to see a movie during a pandemic. Personally, I'm going because I feel safe enough in my area, and I feel like my AMC theater's handling it pretty well. But if you don't feel safe, then don't go. It's really up to you. But anyways, Unhinged, I enjoyed it. And have you guys seen this movie? If you guys seen it, what did you guys think about it? Tell me in the comment section down below. I'm gonna see New Mutants on Friday, finally. So stay tuned for a movie day on that. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.